Hey, what's going on, Minnesota Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple People podcast, where I am lazy and I don't come up with punny names anymore for the shows. Sorry about that. Obviously, this is Kyle Smith talking. If you're listening out in podcast land, if you're joining us live on YouTube, thank you. We have the whole crew here. Adam Carlson's here with the coolest background yet.
How's it going, everyone?
I love it. Kyle West is holding us down at the bottom of this pyramid. What's up, dude?
Hey, not much. Hanging out. I'm going to talk
I like
some
that hoodie.
Vikings football. Yeah, this is my Golden Gophers one I'm wearing today.
Nice. How'd they do? I know they got to the Frozen Four. Did they advance past that?
I'm allowed to say I don't know.
Ah.
I'm
That's
full
all right.
of no info today.
That's all right.
We obviously have something not so fun to talk about later in the show with cornerback Jeff Gladney, but I'm excited. I decided to call this episode 432, 2 weeks and counting. We're a little over 2 weeks away from the draft. Feels like it just crept up on us, honestly. There's been a lot of weird stuff going on. I've got a weird feeling about this draft. I was just telling the guys before we went live. I got a weird feeling about this draft this year. I think there's going to be a lot of movement in the first half, and I'm not really sure what the Vikings are going to do. I think there's a pretty good chance of offensive line or defensive line, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him trade back. And I think there's going to be a lot of craziness this year.
Maybe they'll move up for Pitts. You never know.
Oh, man.
I
Wouldn't
think
that
we
be an
don't like
offense?
that, but that's probably not going to happen.
I'd feel really bad for Irv.
Yeah.
He's probably at home like,
A little bit.
I'm going to get my shot. It's coming. And then he gets sat behind a glorified wide receiver that's
Right.
going to be on the field every play.
Oh, Fire Breather, what's up, man?
I'm excited for draft day to get here. We're kind of in that time of year where there's not really much to talk about.
You are
not
always
much
happy when
positive.
mock draft season is over.
Definitely, because I like when we get the players on the team, and you can actually sit down and you can really dive into who your new rookie class of talent is going to be. That's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to get to know the new guys on the squad. I enjoy that a little bit more than the mock draft stuff.
Yeah, same here. I like that schmucks like us can go around and make our predictions and be armchair GMs, but at the same time, I think with anything with social media these days, people take it and they run with it, and there's just so many out there. So it's not really original anymore. And let's be honest, it's not really accurate minus the first couple of picks. There's going to be a shock. There's going to be a reach. There's going to be a player fall in every draft. And it's not really accurate. So, and on the flip side of that, you can say everyone thinks their team killed it in the draft unless they obviously screw something up, like you draft Johnny Manziel for some stupid reason in the first round, or you pass on Justin Jefferson like a complete idiot. But you can't really say either until a few years later, like, oh, we nailed it. I hate when that's my least favorite thing about the draft and everything that comes to draft grade is an A+. Like, these players haven't played it down in football yet. How can you say that? So that's my
What do
least
they
favorite.
always say, Adam? What do they always say? It takes at least 3 years to truly evaluate a draft class.
Yeah, that is what they say. And Viking Jerome there's comment kind of makes me kind of wonder things because Jalen Phillips has come out of almost nowhere lately.
Yep.
For a while, he was not mentioned among the top 2 pass rushing prospects, and he has really replaced Russo. Russo's been dropping, and I guess after Russo's pro day, a lot of people were talking about how he could be a day 2 option.
Trying to figure which one is Jalen Phillips the one who took a year off or 2 years off with concussion issues?
Yeah, he didn't play last year.
Yeah, I don't want that guy anywhere near the team. I don't. And it's not because I don't like the guy personally, but that to me just
And Russo's extremely raw. So I can get why some teams would be afraid of him, but Pay will probably be the top pass rusher off the board just because he's got the established credentials.
Yeah, Firebreather, we talked about that last pod, I believe. I'm so glad that he's back. So I share your excitement there. Yeah, I'm with you too, man. I think Kwity Paye's going to be the first edge rusher off, and I really hope that's who. That's my choice in this draft. The only thing that would make me happier is if one of these offensive tackles / guards falls, like an Elijah Vera Tucker, Rashawn Slater. If they're there, I can take them immediately. That'd be great. But I think we all can agree the top tackle in the draft is projected to be Penei Sewell. I don't think he's going to make it a 14. So if one of those guys could shore up the offensive line, go for it. But the biggest concern right now, I think, is who's going to play opposite of Danielle Hunter, because what we've got there is great rotation. We don't have a solidified starter that's going to wow anyone. So we'll see.
I'm with Kyle West because we've mentioned this before. And West has said that he's actually all right with Stephen Weatherly being the starter across from Danielle Hunter. And it makes sense. And then being able to rotate in some of these other players that have showed potential or had some flash plays. And there is some depth there. It's not established depth, but it's depth.
Yeah, I'm perfectly all right with them rolling with Danielle Hunter on one side and a little bit of a rotation over on the other, because I think that just having Danielle Hunter is such a big piece of this defense. He's such an asset that having him back more than makes up for maybe average play on the other side of the line a little bit. Now, I see a lot of mock drafts have the Vikings going for defensive end. And should they choose to do that, I would be okay with that as well, too, because we also don't know necessarily the long-term future of Danielle Hunter in Minnesota as well, either. So having that insurance policy in case that situation should unfold after this year, that would make sense as well, too.
Something you don't see in the NFL as much anymore is an NFL team riding a hot hand. Like, if you're a player who's just crushing it in practice one week, like, let's say DJ Wanham is having an amazing practice this week, and he looks unbeatable. So the Vikings are like, okay, let's start him opposite Hunter this week. I think that would be interesting to watch because you don't see a lot of that in the NFL these days. It's established starters. Pretty much no matter what, your starter's going to be out on the field.
Viking Jerome asks, what if quarterback Trey Lance from North Dakota State falls to us? You have two options there. You take him and take the value because I think that's a great Kirk Cousins replacement. You let him sit. Or you call the New England Patriots, who are right behind us, and say, hey, Bill, fork it over. And if he doesn't take it, Washington or somebody like that would love a Trey Lance. They would love it. Me personally, he's not going to be at 14. There's no way. Not a chance.
I don't see Minnesota taking a flyer on any quarterback in this year's draft.
Right.
Yeah, if there's a quarterback on the board, one of those top four, if one of those top four are still available, Minnesota will move down. They will.
No.
They'll take that value.
No, Jerome. Mac Jones at 14. Hell no. Double hell no. Absolutely.
Mac's going to go top 3.
He might. I would. I don't know why in the hell.
The hype train is building on him so hard.
You know, you could say the same thing for Justin Fields because Ohio State quarterbacks traditionally don't succeed. But you know what I think? Let's talk about these quarterbacks that are coming out. But yes, just to reaffirm, in case you missed it back in Jerome, hell no. I'm not high on this kid. I think he's Kirk Cousins 2.0, and I think that's great for a team like San Francisco. But I wouldn't trade all that capital for Alabama quarterback who literally has pro players on a college team. I'm not going to do that. To Adam's point, I'm trading back like crazy. The Vikings need a second rounder. Ideally, in my ideal mock draft, this is how the top 3 or the first 3 rounds go. Kwity Paye in the first round. Somehow you can trade back or trade up, use all these picks to get in the second. Wyatt Davis to fill in a guard need in the second round because that's where he's projected to go. and then find yourself a really awesome slot receiver, third wide receiver in the third round. That'd be awesome. But I don't see why you would take that guy. Because if you take a quarterback that high, remember, Christian Ponder was drafted 12th overall. So if you're going to go right in that area, that means you want this guy to start soon. And let's face it, Kirk Cousins is the quarterback of the Vikings' future for at least 2 more years. This is not the NFL where Aaron Rodgers sits for 3 years and then he becomes a star. It's Kirk Cousins has 2 bad games in a row, and the whole town is ready to behead him and the coaching staff. So, no. And then you're paying for a $36 million a year backup? I don't see that at all. I don't like that. Trade back, get picks.
When I look at this draft, I really think that unless there's someone that absolutely wows them at 14, this is the draft that they're going to trade back, get more capital, trade back, because I think Rick Spielman covets that second-round pick. I think he would rather trade back and somehow get a second-rounder out of this if possible. I could see them definitely doing that.
I think Rick is still going to want to get his first rounder because he's going to want to get that player with 4 years and an option. But I also think that there are players that, if they are there at 14, that it will be a situation where they just can't afford to pass. Jamar Chase. If somehow Jamar Chase ends up at 14, the Vikings will take him. Not a need whatsoever. Complete luxury pick. But they'll take him. Micah Parsons. He will be a need probably next year after Barr leaves. But if he drops to 14, Minnesota has to take him. They have to. Past that, this draft is great for depth on the interior of the offensive line. There's a lot of really good players that can be had on day 2 and into the beginning of day 3. So, to me, getting that player to kind of shore things up on the inside isn't as big of a priority. But, yeah, I mean, the way the board falls is going to say so much. And right now, with 4 quarterbacks looking like they're being drafted before Minnesota goes, then you've got 3 wide receivers probably going and a tight end. Mm-hmm. We essentially already know 8 of the players that are going to be gone before Minnesota's on the clock. And there are 2, maybe 3 prospects that you can argue are elite corners in this class. And there's a lot of teams out there that need corners. So it'll be strangely interesting to see how this goes.
Apologize to everyone. My 3-year-old wants to talk, so I'm going to do dad stuff for a minute, but I will be right back.
All right.
So I think, Adam, what was I going to say here? I hope that didn't save. Okay. Okay, I think we got it. Hey, there we go. There we go. Now we're back to the 2 of us. I think that with the way the NFL is expanding, we're adding that other game at the end of it. You say luxury pick when it comes to like a quote skill player, a wide receiver, a big tight end who basically plays wide receiver. But also with the NFL adding more games, I do think having healthy playmakers at the end of the season and going into the playoffs is really going to determine your success in the postseason. So we're getting close to the point where you're going to say, having a Thielen, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and Dalvin Cook, you almost really need to have that 4th big-time playmaker just so that you can plan on having some combination of those 4 guys as we head into the extended season and into the postseason to continue to make plays. I think that's part of the reason why Tampa Bay had success with Tom Brady. A guy goes down, you have another one who can step right in there and continue to make plays for it. So we call them luxury picks, but really I think we're going to start to rely more and more on having that depth at those positions.
Well, we also do have to be honest, though, because this is a team that is going to run through Dalvin Cook. If Dalvin Cook is healthy,
Of course.
it's going to be a healthy dose of Dalvin Cook. And as I stated a little bit earlier, the Vikings are really going to be relying on Irv Smith Jr. to step up in a big way and be that receiver that they hoped he could be. So I know a lot of question marks still surround this offense, especially the offensive line. Depth past the top two wide receivers are question marks. And for some reason, Vikings Twitter is very obsessed with who's going to be the third tight end. And in my mind, that doesn't really matter so much. But I guess it is a question. I'm not too worried about that.
I like Tyler Conklin more than most Vikings fans. I know Irv Smith is kind of like the Cadillac in waiting that we're hoping is going to be our breakout star, but I like Tyler Conklin quite a bit too. I think we're too quick to discredit him.
Conklin's got a great blend of blocking and receiving. I like his play a lot. And that's one of the things that Kyle Pitts, when he gets drafted and it's going to say tight end, he's not a tight end. His blocking game is not quite there. It's going to take him a long time to get to an NFL level where he can hold blocks on a regular basis against NFL caliber talent.
Right.
So if that is going to become part of his game, it's going to take a while. Andrew Layla in the chat says he's a fan of Conklin.
Awesome. There was Conklin is an epic last name. It sure is. There was a question from Andrew up here about the depth at running back. Do we pick up another running back? Yes. If so, what, round 3 or 4? I personally think 3 or 4 is a little early. I think that you're looking more at a mid-round pick. Just because you look at the depth, we know that we still have Cook and Madison as 1 and 2. We re-signed Abdullah, Adam. I don't remember.
Yes.
So we have Abdullah. So you're still kind of looking at that 3 or 4 running back on the team. So I think that you're more safe to take a flyer on a late round running back and bring him in. That's
running back's definitely going to be a day 3 pick, and it's going to be probably a later one, unless one that the Vikings really like is hanging around when they're on the clock. So yeah, I expect that to be something that gets addressed on day 3, along with, of course, I don't know if they're going to draft a kicker, looking undrafted free agency, or what, but there has to be some competition for kicker brought in.
Well,
they need to look into a return man of some sorts, because right now I don't think I'm happy with Abdullah taking a knee on kickoffs, but right now I don't think there's a punt returner on the roster that I feel comfortable with. So that should be something the team evaluates fairly heavily coming into the draft, and grab one of those in the mid rounds. They don't even have to be a great wide receiver or running back or corner or whatever it's supposed to be. I don't mind drafting a specialist. I used to hate the idea of wasting a roster spot on a specialist to just fair catch a football. And these last few seasons for Minnesota have changed my mind on that.
I keep saying I actually want to call into the Pat McAfee.
Oh, Kyle had to, he's rearranging his bedroom. So when you see this little logo come up, that just means his laptop is having some issues because he's not on his usual desktop. Usually he'll come back after a few moments and be good to go. But of course, this all happens with Mr. Smith taking a small break for family and Mr. West dealing with his laptop. But yeah, the draft is always an interesting time. I'm really excited for it. I'm hoping that we can still do like our first round chat party that we did last year. I did get invited to a draft party, depending on whether or not I get my COVID vaccines by then. That'll be decisive on whether or not I end up going to a draft party. But as of right now, I'm just excited to see what's going to happen at a lot of these positions where there is something needed, and I'm not sure what yet.
I don't know what my laptop is doing right now.
Don't worry, I explained it to everyone.
My screen just keeps going black. What I was trying to say before I got cut off was that I think at some point the NFL needs to look at expanding the roster size. Like you said, the way it currently is, you hate to have the roster spot dedicated to just a specialist, just a guy to field punts, whatever. But that is an important. You need to have someone who can do that consistently for the team. And I still think that if we expand the roster, or even if we allow all 53 players to dress on game day, that opens up more room for you to have that kick returner, that punt returner.
I never really have understood the inactives thing. What's the point in that?
Okay, I looked into this. This dates all the way back to the early days of the NFL, when they would say, this team, because it's a bigger market team, they are able to have better players than, say, Minnesota, because Minnesota is a smaller market. So to make it more competitive, we are going to only allow you to dress so many players on your team. That way it was supposed to level out the roster, level out the playing field. That's all that it's there for.
Huh.
This is a complete hangover from the early days of the NFL. There's no reason for it at this point. It's just the way we do things. It's one of those rules that they really need to get rid. They really need to get rid of, because you hear all the time the only way to get better at playing professional football is to play professional football. That's why preseason is important. That's why game time snaps are important for players. And the fact that we're saying, okay, we have 53, but we're only going to dress, 40 some odd, I don't remember how many, on game day. You're denying players from getting snaps on the field and allowing them to get better. I don't know how they're supposed to get better if you don't allow them to play.
That's true.
He said other Kyle changing diapers. Sorry, guys. My son is just now getting to the point where he can ask to call, so can't say no to that.
That's awesome. My laptop froze up while you were gone, too, so we're having an awesome show.
That's good. Oh, man. I see some tight end talk in the chat. That'd be cool. I don't know that we need one, but hey, whatever.
Special teams talk as well.
Man.
Do you think we're going to draft a kicker?
I mean, they have enough late round picks they could, but I just don't see the justification for anything in the, what is it? What am I trying to say here? 7th round, cool. I've never seen kickers drafted so freaking high, and their history recently has just been terrible. So
what about Seabass? 2nd round, I think, right? Seabass was a 2nd rounder.
Oof, yeah.
That guy, one heck of a career.
He's really good.
What was Blair Walsh? Blair Walsh was pretty early. 4th round, 5th round?
I would say a 4th or 5th, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty high up in there. This is a good topic by Vikings Jerome. The NFL changed the rules.
Whoa.
They relaxed it a little bit. I like that.
John Young coming in hot.
You know what? We're going to go in reverse. Viking Jerome, you're booted off the island. No, I'm just kidding. We'll get to yours in a second. I know it's a hot take. John Young says we should draft an offensive lineman. Yeah, scorching hot. I think they're going to. Hot take there, too. The Vikings will draft an offensive lineman in this draft. Yeah, I said it earlier, John. I don't know if you were on here. My perfect one is Kwity Paye and then Wyatt Davis in the 2nd round. I'm not sure how they're going to get back to the 2nd round, but they can do it. But I wouldn't be upset if they took one in the 1st round. It wouldn't. I think you have the justification for both, right? We were talking about this earlier and on previous episode. I mean, the defense was in like the bottom part of the league last year. Now, I'm going to go back to something we were talking about before I had to hop off for a second because Kyle West made a good point. You have Danielle Hunter, right? And everything should be settled there. I think the team's going to take care of him and make him happy and make him want to stay. But we forget that last year's defensive tackle situation and the guys in the middle is vastly improved now. So it was so bad, right?
Yeah.
Now it's vastly improved. So 3 out of those 4 players are going to be good star players. So with what Kyle's talking about, if they do go offensive line in the first round and they let a Kwity Paye pass or whatever, and it's Stephen Weatherly on one end, Dalvin Tomlinson, Michael Pierce, and then Danielle Hunter, that's going to be a complete 180 from what it looked like last year. And I think the production will show that too. But I don't know. I don't think the Vikings really – I'm going to knock on wood when I say this because they can, but I don't think they can really screw this draft up because they've done enough in free agency. And even with the Gladney situation, they're pretty set at corner right now, at least for depth. So fingers crossed. I don't know. That's just my honest feeling on it.
The only thing that's a big question mark is what John Young is saying here. What do the Minnesota Vikings see at left tackle right now? Are they really considering Ezra Cleveland there? Did they draft him to be the next left tackle? Do they think Brian O'Neill is ready to shift over and play Kirk's blindside? I mean, there are options out there. None of them seem like magical fixes. But like Rashawn Slater, some of these other players that are in the draft, it's just there are some offensive tackle options early in the first round. And it's a very top-heavy draft for offensive tackles. So if that's what you need to draft it early. Absolutely early. But if you're pretty happy with what the team's got at offensive tackle, at left tackle, if you're planning on moving one of those guys out there for this season, I am more than happy with them waiting and getting a guard round 3 or later, because this is a very deep, very good draft for guards.
We need JT Clemmings, says Andrew, the alter ego and evil twin of TJ Clemmings. Sorry, I'm being picky there. Please no TJ Clemmings. Fire breather, I'm kicking you off the chat for 5 minutes for talking about Matt Khalil and TJ Clemmings. Don't give us nightmares again. He said that's how you give nightmares to every Viking fan. Ugh. Matt Khalil was good his first year.
Oh, he was amazing.
After that, we really don't know what the hell happened, but
for a little bit there, I thought he was going to be the next coming of another great Vikings offensive tackle from USC, but he didn't quite live up to that hype over the years.
Yeah, just fell a little bit short. I'd rather take Jalen Phillips over Kwity Paye. I'm not sold on that concussion thing, man. I was talking about it earlier. That scares the living crap out of me. Concussions are like, hey, when you've had one too many, you Luke Kuechly and you retire. Like, that's it. Middle of a fantastic career.
Cleveland took some lumps last year. He got thrown around a bit on playing on that offensive line in the middle. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I know that as a cornerback, if you come in the NFL and you start taking some lumps, it's a real test to your character as to how you're going to respond to that, if you're going to get tougher, if you're going to grow and develop. And that's why we see such a turnaround for cornerbacks in the NFL. It's because it is a different sport for them trying to defend these absolutely gigantic pass catchers that are freaks of nature athletically. The comparison between the average college wide receiver and the average NFL wide receiver has to just be baffling. And then when you add in the rule changes for hand placement, pulling on a jersey and tugging on a jersey, the feet in bounds, and all the rules that go with helping an offense and a wide receiver, cornerbacks can just get so deflated so fast.
Oh, man, this is good. Remember, Matt Khalil said the Panthers demands excellence. This is true because they cut him. That's brutal. Goodness. Oh, man. I don't know. we were talking about it before we started. I just have an odd feeling about this draft. We kind of know how 1 and 2 and 3 are going to go. It's going to be quarterbacks, but from the Atlanta pick at number 4 all the way to 9 at Denver, I just feel like there's going to be brutal chaos there. And like maybe guys will go in the top 10 like we predicted, but not to any of the teams that we thought that they would go to. Denver needs a quarterback. Drew Lock's not the answer. Cam Newton's on a 1-year deal in New England, and they've been super duper aggressive offseason. Do they fall in love with someone there and get someone else? I don't know.
Do the Raiders have a pickup there? Because in the first round, they always draft a player that I've never heard of.
No, I think they're just after New England.
Happen.
I think they're right after New England. I can check the draft order, but yeah, they're.
The point is that there's always that surprise pick that catches everybody off guard. That prospect that just impresses a team so much that they go in and they take him that first round, no matter what. And it kind of leaves everybody else's head scratching and just kind of confused a little bit as to why that was the pick.
For reference,
I heard a story about John Gruden. I heard a story about John Gruden that's really funny, that he will be like absolutely stuck on a player. We need to have this guy. We need this guy on our roster. I have to have him. And then he will get him, and it can be as soon as one practice, he will immediately fall out of love with this guy and be like, "Fuck him, get him off the team." Like I don't know how you can how do you run a roster? How do you run a team like that?
Well, that's what's crazy about what you're saying is, if you guys remember, I remember their GM from his analyst days, because I think he was probably not a recruiter. What am I thinking of?
Mike Mayock.
Is Mayock still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a scout. Right. Sorry, I couldn't think of the term there. I was thinking recruiter for some stupid reason. He was a scout before, and I liked his analysis of everything because I feel like he kept things fair and he was very formal and tight-knit. Yeah. I don't know how the hell that guy works with John Gruden, because they are polar opposites personality-wise. So
let's be real. It's Mike Mayock is the GM, but John Gruden is running that ship. He's running the whole operation.
He has a 10-year, $100 million contract. I would assume that he's probably in charge.
Yes.
Good for him and his agent. That's some Sam Bradford shit they did to the Raiders. So, what we got here in the chat? I wonder if that microfracture surgery is still a thing.
I heard. Here's another thing too. They were talking about how the Raiders aren't really going to have a home field advantage. The Raiders.
Chargers? Because they won't.
Playing in Vegas, because every away, like if you're a fan of, your team, the Vikings, they're going to be in Las Vegas. You're going to go travel to see. That'd be fun. We'll get the guys together. We'll go to Vegas. We'll watch the Vikings play the Raiders. There's always going to be so many fans from other teams there that they're never going to have a true home field.
Definitely a possibility. Although the Raiders are one of those teams that does have a very loyal following. Raider Nation is quite strong, and a lot of the Raiders fans that I know are insanely passionate. So I don't expect to see a stadium like the ones that have been seen with the Chargers, because the Chargers, I don't know if I've never met a Chargers fan.
I can't believe that the Raiders left Oakland. That's so crazy. I would expect like Jacksonville to leave or some crappy place like that. Like,
hey, Chad, do you know a Chargers fan? Anyone? Anybody?
My brother is the only one that I've ever met and know personally. That's it.
I remember people wearing LT jerseys.
Yeah,
in the day. You could spot a couple of those, but that was more a.
And people loved Gates.
There were some good there were some decent Phillip Rivers years, but I don't think everybody immediately goes in. I always think of LaDainian Tomlinson. Antonio Gates, yeah, he was very good.
Yeah.
And Kyle West definitely wanted a Chargers wide receiver to come to Minnesota. He was even making graphics and making him say, bring Keenan Allen to Minnesota.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
I was a big Keenan Allen fan. I would have loved him in Brooklyn.
He was pounding the table for him.
Andrew summed it up right here. I hate that you said this, Andrew, because it's correct, but it also affirmed that Colin Cowherd had a take that was correct. And I hate Colin Cowherd sometimes. But he's like, why would people care about a sports team in LA or California? They just go to Hollywood or go wherever. He's like, yeah, they'd rather be at the beach. They literally have movie stars and everything. They don't give a shit about that. A sports team there. It's like casual for them. They should be excited, though. They got a really good quarterback that not a lot of people thought was going to be great. I'm actually very, very impressed with Justin Herbert. That's cool.
Long term, he's going to be better for that franchise than Phillip Rivers ever was.
Viking Jerome, I'm glad that you said that. When I was stationed in El Paso, there was a ton of Viking fans there. There was actually a bar there, so which is weird because it's like cowboy country galore. But that's cool. Cliff, what's up, dude? Skull to you as well. Sorry, guys. I had a little weird stuff going on with my Facebook. I actually signed in as another person. One of my old canine buddies. He his stuff is linked to mine, and I don't really know how, so we didn't get a Facebook stream going tonight, but I'll get that fixed. LA. Oh.
The whole Herbert Jefferson Rookie of the Year debate was a fun and interesting one. But both broke league records. Both played very good football. But it all came down to which one was the quarterback. It's positional bias.
I'll give you my thing that I said to my brother, Firebreather, because he's a diehard Charger fan. And he was just, he's biased like we're biased for Justin Jefferson. He's like, oh, there's no way he broke the touchdown record. I was like, that's fine. That was set by Baker Mayfield, who isn't anyone impressive. He's the last one to break it before Peyton Manning. I look at the PFF grade. Justin Jefferson was the number 2 wide receiver in all of football last year next to Devontae Adams as an overall grade. And Justin Herbert was nowhere near that. So I'm with you. I do believe that belonged to Justin Jefferson, but it's whatever. He didn't even play the full 16 games, and he's he didn't play the full 16 games, and he still had like 1,400 yards. So, yeah, that kid's going to be a problem.
It all comes down to which television shows has fans of which team. I don't know if I've ever watched a TV show full of Chargers fans, but How I Met Your Mother has Marshall. So How I Met Your Mother wins.
It's a great show.
And it's so awesome to see him walking around in a Marshall jersey. That of all the Vikings jerseys that you see on the street or people wearing, you don't see a lot of Jim Marshalls.
No, not at all.
And you should, because he was pretty awesome. And it's also weird that Jim Marshall is one of the ones the Vikings have his jersey retired, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. I think I may have to do a little bit of research on that, because him and Stringer are the two that aren't in the Hall of Fame. And I'm wondering how many more there are with the jersey number retired and not in the Hall of Fame, because it can't be many.
No, not at all.
Maybe a handful or so.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, if we're going to do handful over under 5, I would say I'd take the even there. I don't think it's more than 5. That's kind of how that works, the Ring of Honor, and then maybe you go there. Maybe you go in the hall, maybe you don't. Speaking of, this is a great debate with some of my friends, and I'm on the side that gets yelled at. Patriots, great. Julian Edelman retired yesterday. That was a pretty big news. They already had a really crappy wide receiver core, but 3-time Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP. And my timeline on Facebook is flooded with people arguing, is he a Hall of Famer? Is he not? And I love that conversation, because I love how heated people get about it. It's really funny. Viking Jerome says he has Jim Marshall, Carl Eller, Alec Page jerseys. Good for you, dude.
I have an Eller and a Page, but not a Marshall. Not a Marshall.
Yeah, Fire Breather. I think both teams won that trade with Diggs and Jefferson. We kind of pounded this into the ground, but the more I see about Stephon Diggs, the less I like him. I'm not a fan of the personality, which sucks, because I really want to like the dude as a person, and I know he's just trying to find himself. But good God, man, I'm not.
Before we push on too much, though, I do want to talk about how much we should be thanking the Wilf family for stepping in and buying the Minnesota Vikings. And now we're seeing this other conglomerate coming in and buying the Timberwolves, and it's a good chance that the Timberwolves are going to be moved out of Minnesota. That's what a lot of people are assuming.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, that's the assumption.
Man, that sucks.
Because remember, Red McCombs was trying to sell the Vikings to a group down in San Antonio. The Vikings were almost a team from San Antonio.
Ugh.
And I'd have felt weird rooting for the San Antonio Vikings.
Can't do it. I mean, I would, but that just hurts to hear.
So recently, Troy Williamson was a guest on the Believe podcast, which features Brian McKinney and one of the former writers from the Viking Age, and they had a nice talk about chili. And I wish that Mr. West was still here because I know he's a big Brad Childress fan, but apparently the situation between Brad Childress and Troy Williamson is still very, very new and fresh to Troy Williamson, because he said that he'd still be willing to fight Brad Childress at the 50-yard line this day.
Oh, that's so funny.
I put an article out over on the Viking Age about that drama, and it's absolutely crazy to hear some of the stories. Brian McKinney told a story about how he was guilted after one of his best friends died. Someone he went to school with passed away, and he was guilted into not going to the funeral.
That's awful. I can speak firsthand on how shitty that is. Excuse my French. It's, I didn't get to bury my best friend or my grandfather thanks to the military. And that was 2009. It's 2021. I'm still salty about that. Like, very. That sucks. If that's the truth, that's horrible.
And for Williamson, it was his grandma. And he was told that he could go, but he'd have to come back the next day.
Yeah.
And sure, for some people, that's fine. But not everybody grieves the same way. A lot of people need more time. They need time with their families. They need time for closure. And I get it. I do. But, man, the more stories that came out about how Brad Childress operated as the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, the more I can see how that locker room kind of traditions kind of swelled so far out of position. I also wrote an article a long time ago, maybe 5-6 months ago, about a story that Mike Zimmer was telling about when he first arrived in Minnesota and everybody was gambling down in the locker room. And he came down there and he shut that stuff down immediately. And it's that kind of tradition that you don't want that in your locker room. You want an atmosphere of professionalism, and camaraderie. Being a player's coach works for some people. For others, it doesn't. You still have to be that authority that people respect. And if you're that worried about people liking you, I don't know if you can efficiently do your job.
I think about the chili stuff too. And I guess it's a really good example of the current Super Bowl champs. When you have a guy who's a solid and at the time #1 in every category quarterback who's going in the Hall of Fame and he's on his last leg, don't step in and have a fight and have a control battle with him. That dude is the reason why that team went 12-4 and were overtime away from going to the Super Bowl that they hadn't been to in 40 some years. It irritates the ever-loving crap out of me that guy was like, well, I'm the coach, you got to listen. It's like, dude, Favre's the reason these guys are pumped, not you. You can coach a team with Adrian Peterson and there's Chester Taylor was there too. I don't know who the quarterback was right before. Was it Gus Perrott and Tavares Jackson? Like, you can coach those guys into maybe getting to the playoffs, but Favre's going to have that spark and have that energy. And I'll never understand that battle because you can tell on the sidelines there's always tension. Favre's just like, dude, get out of my way. Let me go win football games.
Oh, Andrew, I'm still. Don't get me wrong. I like watching the Wild. I really do. But as a kid, I grew up watching the North Stars. And when they moved to Dallas, I was heartbroken. I stopped watching hockey entirely. Now, the Wild, it's not the same. It's not. I know it's Minnesota hockey, but it's just not the same. So, yeah, if the Vikings would have had to have moved down to San Antonio, I might not even be a football fan right now.
That's a bold statement right there. Not for Firebreather. We'll talk about that. I'm talking about what you're saying and how much they impacted you. That's crazy.
So the Wilf family stepping in and stopping Red McCombs. I know that I've seen his chat. I've seen his name being said in some negative fashion. So, yes, I was talking about Red McCombs. But, yeah, I'm so glad that his neediness to make a buck was shut down by someone that saw a future for NFL football in Minnesota, because otherwise it would have hurt really bad.
I had to put Firebreather's comment up because it's a true thing. We've talked about it on the show. We've said this before, but I don't think it gets highlighted enough. Kirk Cousins is when your parents say they're not mad at you, they're just disappointed, and it hurts more. I love the guy. I think he's an outstanding citizen. I don't think you're ever going to have drama with him. Shout out to his agent for making him stupid amounts of money. He's won a playoff game. He has great statistics, but he is just not. He's a middle-of-the-road kind of guy. He provides continuity and assuredness, if you will. But you're right. I mean, as far as a consistent basis, I mean, there's no denying that, which is crazy because of the Vikings are like the diet Cleveland Browns when it comes to quarterbacks. I mean, it's just been a rotation of what the hell, man? What are we going to do now? Or who's in this week or this year? Who's it going to be? But I am very happy with the consistency that he brings to the team. At least we don't
I'll
have
put
to
an asterisk on Firebreather's statement because I will say, and I don't know if this is bold or stupid take or whatever, but a healthy Sam Bradford is probably one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere on Facebook talking about recently about what might have been. And if that guy's knees would have been tougher, I mean, the dude was just – he was a surgeon in the pocket, man. Just a surgeon. But, yeah, those injuries sucked.
You just could not rely on him. You couldn't. As good as he could provide you for, there's no way that you could go into a season and say that he would last 16 games. And there's absolutely no chance he'd last 17.
No. Yeah, you're right. It could be worse. We could have Ponder, Castle, or Freeman. God, that Freeman game was so embarrassing. Woof.
I still can't believe they started him in that situation. That was brutal.
Well, it just proves to you, too, how much the NFL, depending on team and coach, how it is. Because Sam Bradford was brought in less than 2 weeks. He came in and played great and beat Green Bay. In the first game at US Bank. So you could tell the caliber of player and talent there, but that's just not fair to Josh Freeman either. It was terrible. God, that was awful.
Yeah, it really was. Let's see what else we've got here. Trying to make a little run down the list here, and I got another message here on the Purple Podcast chat that's interrupting my list of stuff to talk about. So, oh yeah, I believe it was you that shared a list of game day drug habits, whether it's drug and alcohol.
I thought it was just alcohol, but yes.
One list was for alcohol and one was for getting high, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, the one on the left is binge drinking, and the one on the right is smoking marijuana.
Oh, I didn't even look at the one on the right.
And Minnesota was fourth from the bottom in binge drinking at Vikings games. And I don't believe it. I've been to 10 Vikings games, and I can say that alcohol consumption at those games is very high. Very, very high. So maybe at other stadiums, I've never been to a game outside of a stadium in Minnesota. So maybe consumption at, a Jacksonville game per capita is higher. But yeah, I don't know. I've seen some really sloppy people. And on the other side, Minnesota's 31st in marijuana use heading into a Vikings game. So I don't believe these numbers because
where do you get that though? Who's going to be like, yeah, I get high and I prove it? Like nobody's going to go around and have an admission of guilt or something with their name attached to it. That's so stupid. I don't believe that at all.
I've rode the train on the way to a Vikings game. There are people getting very high heading into those games.
Oh, that's funny. I don't know. I think the whole point of tailgating and anything like that is you're going to get hammered before you go in. And you know why you do that? Because it's $9 beer day everywhere you go at any football game. So you should probably get that in before you have to pay $9 to $10 per beer. So
I'm way too cheap for that. I'm one of those people that if I go to a football game and I'm hungry, I'll wait and I'll catch the drive-thru on the way home to get some food rather than pay $14.50 for some nachos. And no, I don't know if they're $14.50. That's just a guess.
Well, it's close to that. I'm one of those guys that contributes to that terrible problem just for the experience. And it's terrible because it costs that much. But also, I'm not a fan of using big public bathrooms like that, especially if you got to go number 2 there. It's not a fun time. You got to pee that's cool. You can get in and get out, but that's just awful having to be in that environment. Ugh.
That's another thing. 10 games at US Bank Stadium, and I've never used the bathroom.
Really?
Never once. But I did use it at not 10 at US Bank. I've only had 7 at US Bank. I had 1 at the Metrodome, and I definitely used the toilet there, and I should not have, because that trough was awful.
I was about to say, didn't they have like a pig trough?
I used the trough. And afterwards, after they tore that stadium down, and they were selling the pieces online, the urinal from the Metrodome was on sale, and I don't know who bought it or did what with it. But
that's so weird.
It's scary to me that was available out there.
You can find the seats because they have, there's however many thousands of seats there, but God, they're ridiculously priced. That's crazy.
Yeah, they disassembled that place and sold it to the highest bidder.
It's a smart move on their part to make a little coin back. I guess we can talk about the Gladney stuff and then sign off if you'd like.
The only other thing I wanted to mention was the weather damage that was done to the TCO site at Vikings Lakes, where Minnesota was hosting the COVID shot clinic, and they took that and they moved it to US Bank Stadium for a few days while repairs were done. It's not a big deal, but still it's nice that US Bank Stadium was opened up for that use and people could go in and take their shots, because I know this is all comes back to me being kind of selfish, but I want full stadiums back for next season. It's not the same without people in the stadiums. So the fact that they could open the doors, get people in there to get their shots, then hopefully fill it up. Roger Goodell had said that he wants the full stadiums for the 2021 season, and I want that too. I don't know how they're going to enforce anything. I don't know if they're going to have any requirements to come in. I don't know how any of that's going to work. But I know that after watching WrestleMania this year, which had some fans in seats, it wasn't full capacity, but they had fans in seats, and hearing the loud pops of a crowd again, a live crowd, it's completely different from the piped in sounds and the people's faces on screens that it was all before. And the Vikings had to feel really strange not having that loud noise on defense.
Right.
Because I know that when I went to a Vikings game, the crowd caused at least 1 or 2 false starts or miscommunications on offense through just the crowd noise alone. And it's so cool to be sitting in the stands and kind of take a little bit of credit for that. That feels really nice. So, yeah, I mean, I know that depending on where you stand on the whole COVID or vaccine situation, I think we all have the same goal in wanting to get butts in seats, make that football experience the way it should be, and enjoy it for what it is, and not the watered down product that we've kind of seen over the last year.
Yeah, we all have our own thoughts and feelings on it. I'm not really a big fan of that stuff, and I don't want to get too personal about it. I had COVID. I know it affects everyone differently. People have lost loved ones over it and stuff, but I feel like if the mask is the solution, I don't see why we can't all go there. Now, when I went to the Houston game during last season, there were some assholes there who would not comply, and they'd hold a beer in their hand and then pull their mask down and just chill. And it's like, hey, dummy, you have to actually be drinking it and put your mask up. I know that's not going to make things fun. I'm not necessarily on the side that thinks that we should all be hermit crabs and sit at home and be scared all the time either. But I also got a vaccine for this very reason, so I could go do things. So I'm with you, man. I think the frustration has mounted. I see it in my personal job at the airport. People are flying again.
Oh, yeah.
And they're tired of sitting at home. They want to do things. And now I think at least a month ago, I'm sure it's more by now, but there was like 12% of the country had already gotten the vaccine for the first quarter or quarter of the year. So by September, I'm sure we could be close to half of the country. And if that's what you got to do, whether you agree with it or not, I'm not necessarily on the agreement side of that. But if that's what it takes, I'll show them a card and let me go do this, because I want to be part of that experience that you're talking about. Because the 2 games that I've been to see the Vikings have been away games, but I've had such memorable times there. I loved it. And I want to share that with my family, you know?
Absolutely.
Maybe you guys can come. We can finally go see a game together. That would be fun.
Oh, I love going to the Vikings games. Different opponent every time, and I've seen 9 wins. Or is it 10 wins? I can never remember if I've been to 9 or 10 Vikings games, but I know I've never seen a loss. I've never left a Vikings game where the Vikings lost. So that alone is cool, because I've seen Minnesota face some pretty tough teams. I've seen them face off against Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, RG3, some of the hottest quarterbacks at the time. RG3 was on fire back in the day. And that was one heck of a game, too.
Absolutely.
That was that game with that Christian Ponder dive for the pylon.
Man,
you remember
that was so good. Yeah, that was a great play from that dude. We shit on him a lot in the past, but man, he was he's definitely part of the history, and he had a couple of good little flashes here and there. The first game he played, I thought he was going to beat Green Bay. I was like, oh my God, this is it. We found a guy, and that obviously didn't happen. That was like a 3-13 year.
I really thought that when I went to that U.S. Bank opener on, I think it was Monday Night Football against the Packers, I really thought I was going to see my first loss, because Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers was just picking on Trey Waynes so bad that whole game. And everybody in the stands was getting so frustrated. Oh, it was so awesome when he got that interception and sealed the game away. I just
watched that play not even a week ago. I wanted to see that because we're talking about Sam Bradford, and I'm like, good God, man, that dude could just put the ball anywhere he wanted to. And had 2 games in his career. I think his 2 best ones. He outplays Aaron Rodgers. He outplays Drew Brees on the U.S. Bank Stadium opener, and then like the first game of the year for that miracle season too. It was insane. Andrew says, let us know your next game. Shit, well, I'll let you know, man. I'm definitely going to U.S. Bank this year, 100%. I'm finally in a good financial situation where I can do pretty much whatever the hell I want. So I'm taking my dad, maybe even my son, and we're going. So.
Oh yeah, I was there, fire breather. I hit up several games, and weirdly, one of the most exciting games was the one where it was a preseason game against the 49ers. And the name's slipping on me right now. The the Redskins or the Washington starting quarterback right now?
Dwayne Haskins,
Nope.
Alex Smith, Taylor
No.
Heineke.
There you go. Isn't Heineke the only one there now?
Him and Haskins is somewhere else. Yeah,
Haskins is gone. But yeah, when Heineke had that comeback game and he dove for the end zone in the final seconds and got a win, that was going to be my first Vikings loss that I saw in person. And nope, he made sure that didn't happen. So that was absolutely great.
We're going through some good stuff. Going through the vault here of the not sad Viking memories. I like it.
Well, like I said before, I haven't had a bad experience at US Bank Stadium yet. Not for watching football, because there's not a bad seat in the house. There really isn't. Well, the worst seat in the house is the upper level at the very top, because those steps are steep. If you get a seat at the top of the bowl, I hope you've been working out, because those steps are brutal.
My goal would be to get lower level of the top section, or however you're supposed to say that. That would be awesome.
Last year, my plan was to go see the Minnesota and Jacksonville game, which actually would have worked out. Because Minnesota did win that game in overtime.
Yeah, the Vikings got away with some ones last year that were like the Panthers game. They shouldn't have won that game. I thought the friggin' Jags were going to beat us there. That's funny.
Is that a green screen of The Office behind me? I don't know. I have to ask Stanley up there.
Damn, fire breather. You just now noticed that? Yeah, we were saying that at the beginning before we started. We're like, we're going to have Adam talk like Kevin with the caveman talk for the entire show. Oh, man.
I love The Office. I love it so much. If you don't have the Peacock, I mean, for WWE alone, if you had the WWE Network at $10 a month, now you can have the Peacock at $5 and get all the pay-per-views, and you get the super fan cut episodes from The Office. Those super fan cuts are so good. So good. But that's essentially all I have that I want to talk about this week. We will say this. If you want to know about the Jeff Gladney situation, we aren't going to talk about a lot of the details. You can go look them up there. Some of the things that Jeff Gladney is being charged with are pretty disturbing and could trigger some folks. So it's probably best if we don't talk a lot about what's going on with that situation. But if he is found guilty of doing these things, he likely will be spending time in prison, which means he probably won't be a member of the Minnesota Vikings. But for now, the Vikings have not cut him. So I'm not sure what their plan is. I don't know if they're waiting for more information to come out about it. But for now, it's just something to monitor kind of closely and see what's going on, because he did look like a promising young cornerback that was developing kind of nicely. But you can't have a person on your team that would do something like that to someone else.
Yeah, Adam hit exactly what I wanted to say. It's a domestic violence charge. The Vikings, like you said, they have not cut him yet. They did make a statement and said, we take this kind of stuff very seriously, which this isn't an organization that picks up. No offense to Jeff Gladney. He hasn't had his due process yet, but this isn't a team that goes after guys that have drug history, violence issues, blah, blah. This is a very classy organization. So my expectation is if he turned himself in, you don't turn yourself in if you're innocent. So Jeff Gladney's going to be off the team, and he's going to be in prison. That's probably going to happen. All signs point to that, and that's just an assumption. That really sucks. I hope he turns his life around, but his NFL career is probably over with. And just from what you were saying on there, no one that's a fan of this team should be a fan of those kind of actions. But I am one of those guys that say, hey, look, let him have his due process. Let him see what happens, because everybody deserves that right living in this country. But I'm going to say something that's kind of sarcastic and probably not funny to rebound from that, but I'm sure it's so glad we signed Patrick Peterson, Mackenzie Alexander, and I'm so glad to hear that Mike Hughes is healthy and looks to be thriving, because this corner room is going to be stupid good. So Yeah.
I
That
even like
sucks for
Chris
Jeff
Boyd.
Gladney, but
Chris Boyd's looked good at times.
yeah, we went from having rookies starting and like, oh crap, to we've got pretty good depth. We're good, thanks. And I hate to say that just to write the guy off, but when you do something like that, or you're accusing yourself of, or turn yourself in for that, pretty much points to you're probably guilty. Hey man, sorry. Hope your life works out after, but you gotta pay for those sins. So that's the Jeff Gladney situation. As Adam said, we're not going to give you the details. You can look that up. They are disturbing, FYI. But hey, we're 2 weeks away from the draft, man. It starts 2 weeks from Thursday, so I'm excited. I'm assuming, Adam, we're going to do this. If we're not, it's totally fine. But we probably will do another live show during the draft. So
yeah, as I was telling them when you had to step away, I did get an invitation to a draft party. So if I do get my shots by then, I will probably be at that draft party.
Cool.
And if not, I will probably be right here in front of my computer, hanging out with you guys, talking about the draft. So either way, I will be watching and I will be chatting about it. I might not be here live on the Discord or live on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook if we do go that way. But yeah, I mean, either way, I'm excited about this draft, and I'm just Andrew. I don't like you making fun of mocks, man. That's where I make my money. Mock drafts are that's good cash for me. So if you see some mocks from Adam Carlson there on the Viking Age, give them a nice click through, and I appreciate it. I really do.
That's a good segue. I will say before we get started on doing our promos and getting out of here for this week, if we don't end up doing a live show during the draft, which I'm kind of okay with not saying that I don't want to do it, but I want to do what Adam's doing. I want to go to a draft party with my coworkers. And, doing the show is cool with you guys, but I kind of want to just kick back, have a beer, and just see the chaos happen instead of having to jump into it. But if we do live show, we'll let you know, obviously, ahead of a time. Adam will let us know so we can kind of prepare. But if we don't, we are definitely going to do a show probably no later than the day after round 3 to recap and have it fresh, because this is an exciting time for everyone. This is not something we're going to wait a week to talk about. I know we've been kind of out of it the last couple of weeks, but there hasn't been any news, and we're not really pressed to make a show every day like some Vikings channels. We want to do something where we have an hour's worth of material. So just know that we'll let you know. We'll post on Facebook and we'll let you know on here, and we'll schedule stuff. But that's all I had.
And also, I know that some of you have noticed already, but I have upgraded my visual setup here. So, and I have, of course, my nice mic here all ready to go. So when you add those together, it does mean that I'm planning on getting back into doing some of my Twitch stuff. I bought 2 different green screens, and both were the wrong chroma key color for what I needed and would not work against my skin tone. So I finally went out and I just bought a lime green blanket and hung it on the wall. And guess what? Boom. Here it is. $7 on eBay.
That's
instead
amazing.
of buying $20 backdrops. So yeah, I mean, this is what I've been doing now. I've been downloading a couple of new games to have available for people to try out and play. It's going to be a lot of social games, a lot of Jackbox games. I just picked up What the Dub, which if you've never played What the Dub, what they do is they take public domain movies and they splice the dialogue at a certain point, and they let you finish the dialogue for what the movie is, and it usually ends up quite hilarious.
I like that.
So yeah, head on over there and check that out. Over on Undead Walking, I'm not doing as much these days. I'm still a guest on the Undead podcast every once in a while with Sarah Beth Pollock, who's one of the best people on the planet. So yeah, and I've been doing appearances on a lot of other podcasts as well. So I've been keeping busy doing some good stuff. But if you want to see my Vikings related stuff, head on over to thevikingage.com and you'll see a list of the articles that have been published. And if you see one by Adam Carlson, please give it a click through. As I said before, I really appreciate that. Helps me pay the bills. And honestly, the bills, they pile up. They really do.
Go support our guys here. I don't have anything cool like that to promote, so I like to put you guys in highlight, and this is what we always do. And I have to say it every once in a while. We don't bombard the shit out of you guys in the beginning. Like, subscribe, notification bell, because that is my most hated thing on any channel.
Although we do have room for a Manscaped logo up there.
Yeah, we do. That was an offer that we had, which was cool. We're not really hot Instagram babes, so that's not really our thing because that's mostly
that. And you look at my face and Manscaped, they aren't going to believe that.
I don't think between Adam and I don't think we're going to be the ones to tell you about Manscaped here. So, but hey, shout out to them for giving us a shot. That's cool. Kyle West has some really good stuff here if you want to write it down or take a screenshot. He's a very good photographer, and he keeps his portfolio pretty updated. I would say every couple of months, but he does great work. If you follow him on any social media, you can see the work that he does, and you can get them in prints everywhere. And also, you can also order Purple People podcast stuff there. You can get it on mouse pads, T-shirts, coffee mugs, cell phone cases, you name it. So if you go down there at Redbubble and look up his link there on the screen, there's a lot of cool stuff from Mr. West you could purchase.
Yeah, he's got some great photography to add with some really fun digital art. So you can get a print of that and you get to put on things. Oh, it'll make your house look nice. It will. He's got some photos from Vikings training camp. A lot of other cool stuff. The offer was in our email. We missed out on the offer to partner with Manscaped because we didn't answer our email in time.
Dude, but I'll get when we get a Sundrop sponsor, I'll be happy. All right, I drink this stuff like it's water. It's never going to happen, but I'm going to do something kind of homey or Viking related. So, thank you, Manscaped. We don't read emails. We appreciate the shout.
Yeah, our email account is not opened too often. You're better off just messaging us on Facebook if you're trying to get a hold of us. I don't even know if we check our Twitter.
I don't know about that. I don't really do anything on the Instagram page either, but we have that out there. If you send us a message, we can figure it out.
Yeah, our socials aren't the best. And as far as sending us a message on Twitch, I don't think we check those either. I also haven't seen a chat notification from Twitch in a while. Not even a bot.
Yeah, it's really sad.
At least that one day we got a bot.
The shout out to the YouTube subscribers though, because we had a bunch today that chimed in, and I didn't get the Facebook linked up today, and I'm really sorry about that. But for you guys that did want to subscribe, let everybody know. I'm going to do a repush on my personal page and on the Facebook page here, just to get more people to follow. I think we had I don't know. Oh, it was on our YouTube page. We had 500 people. Well, I want to get that to at least 1,000. I want to see the Viking community grow here. So
yeah, I've seen a lot of newer podcasts come through and just bombard people with, hey, add us, and we've never been those guys. If you find us and want to hang out, that's awesome. But yeah, I mean, we've never been those that in your face kind of people.
How many times you get a phone call? I've put myself in the do not call list, and now they're the cool thing. We're just rambling at this point. This is so incoherent and dumb. But we got a call the other day from an actual person, caller ID on my phone now. It's like a person. Hi, waits a couple minutes. I'm here to talk to you about this. I hang up and I call back to try to be a jerk to him. And some lady was like, I didn't call you from this number. I was like, this is how I got it. So they're using other people's phone numbers. That's really great.
I get calls for the policeman's fund. I don't know if that's a common one these days, but I was asking them because they want donations and pretty much cash over the phone, They want my information. And it's like, absolutely, no, I'm not doing that. I said, I'll donate. Give me the website. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Or send me something in the mail.
And
I'll take a look. Sweet. Maybe write you a check. Because, yeah, I'm 40. I do write checks. I do. I'm old like that. That does happen. But I'm not one of those people that writes checks at the grocery store. I'm not that old.
We're talking about writing checks. That's so funny. We'll wrap it up, guys. I'm excited to get close to the draft, and we'll get this up for your iTunes stuff. We're everywhere that you can find your podcasts and whatnot. So, hey, let us know, what you want to talk about next week when we jump in. We'll always take your comments. Thank you to everybody that jumped in today too, because we didn't have a lot to talk about, but there's a lot of chatter in the chat here on YouTube. But we'll be back next week and get ready for the draft. I'm really excited about it.
That's true. I think we're going to try to squeeze in at least one more show before the draft. So we'll have something to talk about. And, of course, if the Vikings have some news, it's going to be fun. I do want to thank everyone who came in and hung out. We do appreciate you. Spread the word to your Vikings friends, because if you guys can have conversations going on over in the chat, it makes it even more fun for us to top in those conversations, talk about whatever you guys want. Heck, you guys guide the show a lot of the times. So thank you so much for some of your questions, concerns, comments, because it's a lot of fun. And if there's anything else that you want to see on the show, whether it's a change in structure, maybe a cool segment you want to see added, let us know. We're open to ideas. This show is for you. It's pretty much by you, too, because we're all just fans doing our thing, trying to make our way through the Minnesota Vikings universe. On that note, on behalf of Mr. Smith, Mr. West, who hopes to return on his desktop and have smoother sailing next week, I do want to thank you one more time, and remember, stay classy, Minnesota.